What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips where you already know I'm about to get it in. But before I get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding! Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that the gun is kicking. And I appreciate the support, man. I'm very humbled by it. Gracias. Thank you. So, nowadays we don't see too many Norteño versus Sureño incidences. North side, south side. We don't see it too much. It doesn't happen as much as you might think it happens. In the 90s, late 80s, 2000s, oh, it was happening, right? There was a lot of shit, especially in Northern California, where the upstaters were setting their mark. They were setting their foundation during that time. Cities like San Jose, Atwater, Richmond, Vallejo, these towns exclusively were setting their mark, right? And there was a lot of guerra between Norteños and Southsiders. It happened daily. It wasn't nothing to it but to do it. I got so many homeboys from my neighborhood that I could recall were locked up for incidences between North and South. I myself caught a body over a North and South situation, man, and then ended up in Southern California doing time amongst the Southsiders. So you reap what you sow, and they definitely got their get backs. Not ultimately, but they definitely were trying. I got packed out many a times. Now, there was an incident that took place in Washington State. Now, I live in Washington State. I dwell in the lab 24/7. And, a lot of people think the Pacific Northwest, places like Oregon, Washington, even Idaho, Montana, are watered down or weak. Far from it, right? There are gang members everywhere. This is the United States of America, and you can get United Stated, period, no matter where you go. Now, Washington has been a stronghold for the Southsiders and the Norteño establishment and causes for a very, very long time. What I noticed about Washington is you'll see a lot of Northerners and Southerners that are of native descent, meaning indigenous people that come from reservations. They kind of gravitated towards the Mexican gangs, the Mexican or Chicano, Mexican-American Chicano gangs. And, we all Chicanos, Mexicanos have indigenous blood. So ain't nothing to it but to do it. If you see a couple of natives, man, they are your brothers. Best believe that. And in Washington State, you'll see a lot of natives handling their business. Well, I seen a video that was done the other day on the Homie Hangout. Shout out to Rascal. Make sure you guys tap in. And I had heard the same story, and I wanted to kind of elaborate and give you my perspective and take on the story, being that I'm right here in no man's land and ground zero, Everett, Washington, where it went down, right? Now, the situation is like this. There was a conflict between a young Southsider that was actually out there, very well known, putting in work. But he was a kid, 14 years of age, man. You couldn't take him seriously, right? Well, you better. You better take guys seriously, because I learned a long time ago in the era I was raised in the 90s that age wasn't nothing but a number, like an Aaliyah song. It didn't matter how young you were. If you had a gun in your hand, you used it. And you had no regard for human life or no regard for people's personal property, because at the same time, you didn't know better. You were young. Your program was dictated by older homeboys. Back in our days, we weren't pushed to do good and stay positive. We were pushed to go out there and get it and set our mark and earn our stripes and earn our respect in the barrio. The crazier that they said we were, the better, right? So this 14-year-old out here in Washington is a Southsider, represents the South Side, and is running around. And he gets into conflict with a hangaround, a guy that wasn't necessarily a Norteño, but a guy that kicked it with Northerners. And there's a lot of people like that. I've had so many homeboys that I still consider homeboys that were never jumped in a gang, never part of the barrio. But if something went down between North and South, or if something went down with anyone, they were going to have the homies back. When I say homies, I'm talking about the Northerners, right? Because I know homies is a word that's also used for Southsiders. But they would have the homies back against any opposition because they were a hang-around. They hung around. They associated. A lot of them had brothers that were part of the barrio, or a lot of them had family. And whatever. Some just didn't, but they just grew up in Northern California, and that was the thing to do at that time. So this guy was a hang-around out there in Washington that hung around Northerners, and he got into conflict with this youngster, this 14-year-old, and the 14-year-old basically punked him, deboed up on him, allegedly pulled a pistol, let him know, like, hey, bro, you be fucking around with the other side. You can get it. Whatever. He made him look bad. He had him feeling some type of way. And, of course, the guy had to bow down like the West Side Connect and quit walk out of there like Dub C, because he didn't want that smoke. So of course, this Southsider, he goes back to his Vaudeville, to wherever, lets his homies know, hey, bro, I just punked this Northerner. When in fact it was just an associate, but it damn near should have been, you know. And so what happened was that hang around talked to a guy who was an active Norteño. And there's a big difference from just being associated to actually being a part of audio and putting in work. You know, there's this distaste in the mouths of a lot of people when it comes to North and South, especially in the states like Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and then, of course, Northern California, because there's a lot of conflict between North and South, meaning there's a lot of, you know, about each other. Whereas in Southern California, you don't see Northerners, so they don't really trip unless they get locked up. You know, it's very rare to see a Southsider from Southern California giving a fuck about the colors, tripping off the audio of a Northerner, you know, that are 1,000 miles away from them. You're not going to see Northerners in California unless they're at Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, getting one of them good juices, or at Magic Mountain riding the rainbow. That's just what you're going to see. You know, you're not going to see Northerners out there setting up audios or establishing hoods. It just isn't happening. It hasn't happened. And the reason is there's no real estate left, and there's not enough Norteños to do it. Okay, that's the truth. So in Washington, it's different. There are more Southerners, but the Norteños definitely have a stronghold there, and they are very well established in places like Yakima, Everett, Seattle. There's all kinds of different places. You know what I mean? I don't want to just go into too much detail, but there is. And so this guy went back and told the active Norteño, like, hey, you know, this Vato fucking deboed up on me, trip. So that active Norteño immediately said, well, that we ain't going to go out like that. There ain't no fucking way, right? So this is where the speculation comes. Okay, I'm going to fast forward then rewind it. At 3 a.m, there was a knock at a person's door. And when they look through their Ring camera, this is why Ring cameras, I tell people, get Ring cameras. They're a great thing, they're a beautiful thing, man. You need them, especially for the safety and security of your family. They help. They definitely help. They're not going to prevent you from getting shot, but they definitely deter some shit, right? So they look through their Ring camera, and there's a young kid, 14 years old, buck naked at their door holding his guts in his stomach, and he has a big N carved in his chest. And he's screaming for help. He needs help. He looks on the brink of death. They let him in. They call the cops. Bam. Investigation unfolds, right? So let's rewind it a little bit. So what had happened was that Southsider, that 14-year-old, was talking to a chick. And I don't know exactly how old this girl was, but I know the two aggressors in this situation were 17-year-olds. So they were all kids, right? They were all young. You know, young gangbanging. That's when it's at its height. And this guy was talking to a chick. Now, the crazy thing of this story is the chick had been known to set people up in the past, had been known to lure people to spots and get them stripped out, get them robbed, get them beat up. So why this guy was even had the audacity to be conversing with this chick is beyond my belief, right? You would think that he would know better, having had homeboys that had already been fucking shot out. And maybe she was on their side. Maybe she was the one that was helping them out, so he felt comfortable with her, like she ain't going to switch up. But obviously, this is how it went. So she tells him, hey, let's meet up. Let's kick it, whatever. He's young. He's 14. She's a little bit older. Hey, when you were 14 years old, I'm sure you made a lot of simple mistakes. But when you're a gang member, when you're with the business and known to be with the business in the streets, and I don't know this guy's track record. I don't know what they mean by business, what he was doing. I wouldn't speak on it, but let's just say that he was known, you know, and maybe he wasn't concerned. Maybe he was like, shit, I'm the big bad wolf. I'll blow her pussy down, and that's that, right? So anyways, they meet up. They do whatever they're going to do, and he feels comfortable enough because she invites him to go to a park, you know, in the cuts. So he's thinking, I'm going to go to the park. I'm going to get mine. He's a youngster. He's all proud of himself, whatever. That's part of the life. You know, it's part of the street life. You know, you're meeting up with chicks. They're not the best chicks in the world. They're living that life too. They're trying to utilize a man. A man's trying to utilize a woman when they're actually young and whatever. So he goes out there with her. And this is all true stories. This literally happened. You can Google it. And they go out there. And as he gets out there, he goes to get out of the car. He's getting snatched up by this individual who he punked and another Norteño, right? And I'm sure he was like, oh, fuck, they got me. They caught him lacking. They caught him slipping. Now, the chick allegedly pulls off and just leaves him there. So whether it was a setup or she just got scared and was like, I'm gone, she bounced, right? She bounced. And there's a lot of people speculating that she set him up because she had priors in her past, according to some people. The fact is, I don't think we'll know until this goes to trial, because at the same time, sometimes, people get scared. They're just like, oh, no, my name's Bennett. I'm going to get the fuck up out of it, not in it, right? And she just left him. So you would think in a situation like this, I'm sure he was scared. He was fearing for his life, because now there's an active opposition, and this guy that you punked, that you ran up on, that you did this to, that now they got the upper hand. It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, right? So what these guys did allegedly was tied this guy to a tree, stripped him naked, and they actually told him, okay, and I'm going to tell you about how this helped them actually later. They actually told him they weren't going to kill him, that they were just going to work on him a little bit, and the T word. And they sliced him up pretty good, enough where his guts came out. They carved a big N in the middle of his chest, and whatever he was told. He definitely told the authorities what happened, right? So they left him there to die. But I don't think they did enough damage that he was going to die. But there was a chance he could, leaving him out there tied up. Somehow, these guys leave. Somehow, some way, he was able to get loose and run to the neighbors, and that's when he was seen on the Ring camera, and the neighbor helped him, or the people in the vicinity helped him, and he lived. He actually went to the hospital. Cops came. He lived. He told the cops the story of what happened to him. So that, and here's the cool part, is in the thinking of a gang member, it's like, oh, you shouldn't have told them shit, homie. You're no good now. So now, let me tell you how it ends up. They immediately go and arrest these two. One of them gets arrested on the res. He's a Native American. The other one gets arrested, right? These two youngsters. And neither one of them catch an attempted murder charge. They both catch assault charges and kidnapping and torture and all these different things that they catch, right? And the reason I don't think they were charged with attempted murder is because of what they told them and what that guy told the police, that they said they weren't actually trying to take him out. Now, again, I've said it in other videos, to prove attempted murder, you have to prove that you were aiming for catastrophic injury that would lead to death. In this case, they told them they weren't. So maybe, just maybe, is the reason why, plus age, speculation, whatever. The fact is this: who wins in this situation? You got a family, and I talk about the family first, with the Ring camera, that are traumatized. Imagine someone knocking at your door 2, 3 in the morning, stripped butt naked, bleeding all over your porch, right? That's going to be traumatic. That's going to traumatize some people that are not in that life. Like, wow, imagine if someone did that at your doorstep. You'd be pretty freaked out. Like, what the fuck's going on, right? Also, another thing is, imagine, this guy's family, man, their son, their 14-year-old son just got put in the situation. Yeah, he's in the streets. Yeah, he's gangbanging. Yeah, when he's tough, he's tough. But this time he's not. And imagine when the cops come and he tells the whole story, because he obviously did, because they went straight to arrest the guys who did it. They did not apprehend the chick for whatever reason, whether it all depends on what he said. Maybe he felt that she just left and got away and she was a victim as well. And thank God she did. Or maybe he didn't. I don't know. But they didn't arrest her for whatever reason. They did arrest these guys, and they're being held, in juvenile hall. They're going to go to the county jail. I'm sure they'll be charged as an adult. Now, whether they start to tell on each other, that's up for interpretation and to be seen, right? But this guy, who wins? You have 3 families devastated by a situation like this. The victim's family, the people from the Ring camera, actually 4. And the 2 victims' families now they got their sons incarcerated on some crazy shit. They're going to do some time, right? And the Southsider dude is going to be considered, all that he's done for his hood, all that, which is not, I'm sure, a lot. He's only 14, right? But everything that he thought he was, or what he once was when he had the gun, that doesn't count no more. Because the moment he's chose to speak to authorities, the way the politics in the street work between North and South, the way things happen is, you're no longer in good standings. You're not considered good because you told, even though it was on the opposition and you were the victim, you fucking told. That's it. It's unfortunate. That's how quick your lifestyle could change. That's why I tell young gang members, be aware of your surroundings and what you're into. You could think you're cool and tough and striving for your neighborhood and it's all good. And something as simple as getting snatched up by the opposition and you speaking on it. Now, what was this guy to do? Of course, the cops wanted to know what happened to you. He could have easily said, I don't know. Someone threw a bag over my head, tied me to the fucking tree and got me easily. But he chose not to. And that decision, I'm sure, is going to haunt him for the rest of his life or help him. Maybe this incident is going to help a young gang member into changing his life. He got a blessing. He got blessed. He was able to live, right? These other guys, they're not going to forget because, see, it doesn't go away. They're going to get locked up. They're going to get involved at an even heavier and higher level because now they can go into prison or jail, wherever they're going to go, and say, yeah, homie, we got the opposition. Does it count for anything? Not really. Some of the homies are going to be like, oh, that's what's up, homie. That's what's up. And believe me, Washington State's different. You know, because there's less Northerners, they're going to hear the story. They're going to be like, that's right, Holmes. But now you're going to have a target on your back from all these Southerners who feel you did something to one of their homies. Even though he told on you, doesn't matter. You still played the North-South card, right? Now, let me also explain this to you. Even though these guys were minors at the time, they're not going to be minors when they go to prison. But that guy was a 14-year-old, and that's forever going to stain their resume. You know, you guys took advantage of a 14-year-old. Doesn't matter. I know age doesn't matter in gangbanging, really, but it kind of does. You know, that's why I always questioned my homeboys that would cruise around with young 14, 15-year-old homeboys, and they were like 20, 30, fresh out of prison. And they used them as shooters. They used them because they could influence them. And I used to be like, hey, bro, that's not the get down. The homeboy, you know, I was in the same situation when I was a kid. And I didn't like it. I did some harsh reality time, right? And so I don't wish that upon no one. So I'd be like, nah, let's leave the youngsters at home, you know, and 18 and above, and let's get it, right? But I understand, you know, this is a victim world. This is a world where everyone is victimized consistently, even if it's your own homeboy. That's a part of victimization. You're victimizing someone who doesn't know better, or maybe they do know better, but you're the older person, so you're supposed to give them and guide them the right way. Give them the real klecha. Let them know, hey, homie, this shit is not for you. That's why kind of nowadays I trip out. You see these hardcore gang members, like people that are still active, people that have really been with the business, people that have been locked up, right? And if you watch these podcasts, all these guys that go on podcasts, and some of them are in good standings. They're still, you know, if they get locked up, they still can walk the yard righteously, right? And then there's some that aren't, that are going to go to a yard, man, maybe a yard they don't want to be at, and it's up to them to get off where they're mad at. But they all holler the same message. They all said they don't want to see kids go through what they did. You wouldn't want your son to have to go through what you did. So why do that to someone else's son? That's always been my way of thinking. You know, this is a situation where it proves that the North and South drama doesn't stop. And it's spread to other states. You know, the North and South phenomenon, Nortenos and Southsiders, are now everywhere in all 50 states and different countries, especially the Southern cause. I mean, Southsiders are everywhere. They've made it to Tokyo, the Philippines, Honduras. Shit, they're everywhere, right? They're busting spreads, homies. But the fact is, when it comes to real gangbanging, man, you know, shit like this happens. And this is definitely a situation that's going to change these guys' lives forever. You know, mine did. My situation when I was young changed forever, my life. Not a day that I'm not remorseful. I don't think about, you know, what could have been or what should have been rather than what was. You know, and it's a situation where people don't understand it unless you've been a part of it or lived it. And sometimes you don't even get a chance to live it that long. You know, I went from being a very, very young man, very young. You're not a young man, young kid, a straight baby, to being a YA baby, a prisoner, a convict, you know, having to raise myself, state raised, but raising myself, and only looking for klecha from older homeboys that were pushing me in the wrong direction. Some in the right, most in the wrong. And I had to fend for myself, and I'm surprised I'm alive. I'm a fucking unicorn when it comes to fucking this shit, because I should not be here. I've been in plenty of situations where I shouldn't be here. You know, I only wish the best upon what's going forward with this situation. But now that kid, that the young Southsider that got, not only did he get an end carved in his chest and stabbed and his guts hanging out, now he has to live with these scars, and he has to live with that night, the horror of that night. And he also has to live with the fact that he told. And his homeboys are no longer going to want him involved. All because he got snatched up. Hey, what people do for pussy, huh? The woman, again, in the situation, the girl, I don't know what's going to come of it. We'll see in the trial. But these guys are definitely an ongoing case. So we'll see how it all works out. Again, this is just his word against theirs. You know, I've seen situations where dudes get snatched up. They don't want to blame someone, so they blame someone else. I don't know, man. Evidence will prove. You know, but with that being said, that's what happened in Washington State, man. And it happens frequently in this state. I see a lot of North and South situations. I kind of turn my head to it because it doesn't involve me. But they're out here in Washington doing their thing, both sides, man, tremendously. With that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle for what I truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people, man. I hate when I see youngsters get caught up. You know, their career's over. What's a career? A career is when you go out there and you get money and you do something for the safety, security, and the establishment of your family, not gangbanging. We always use that word to sound professional. My career's over. I know it is. The gun. Bang, bang.